My name is Tom Kaiser, Associate Editor of SnowGoer magazine. In our March 2011 issue, we brought you on a guided ride inside Yellowstone National Park. Titled Yellowstone at its Peak, the story turned out well, but we had so many great photos from the trip that I'd like to share a few others with you. I started my trip after a week of riding at our annual road reports testing in nearby West Yellowstone, Montana. I joined a guided group ride at Yellowstone Vacations. Our group headed outside, picked out snowmobiles, and prepared to head into the park. We motored along snow-covered US 20 at about 25 miles per hour, which was great for checking out the wildlife and stunning scenery. I spotted two chubby-looking bald eagles hanging out on a dead tree limb. Eager to fill out those photo albums, our group pulled to the side of the road, pulled out the cameras, and began shooting like their careers depended on it. I know the feeling. Bison grazing along the Madison River brought our next stop, about 25 minutes into our ride. We all kept a safe distance from the big beasts, and it was a very peaceful scene to witness. I was ready to get moving though, and we quickly got back onto US 20, heading further into the park, and we soon approached the next stop at a sharp curve in the road. Gibbon Falls was our next attraction. Taking some photos and listening to the water cascade over rocks, I was starting to get pretty excited about the rest of our day's ride. Our youthful guide Tim Knaus, who's also a horse-mounted backcountry law enforcement ranger during the summer, had a lot of interesting facts to add to what we were seeing before us. He was also gracious enough to take photos for people in our group. If you've never rode with a guide before, I'll hope that you get somebody as fun and interesting as Tim. It wasn't long before we stopped again, this time at Barrel Spring. It was quite a sight. Steam blasted from a vent in the ground just off the trail. All this heat seemed like such a contradiction to the winter time in the Rocky Mountains. The view in the opposing direction was equally fascinating, as a river cut through the area but had no ice covering on top. Our next destination, after a much longer ride, was Canyon Village, home of Artist Point, the upper and lower falls of the Yellowstone River, and the amazing Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. The upper falls roared mightily, and I enjoyed the contrast from how it all looks in the summer. The lower falls were even more impressive, with the sharp, snow-covered sides of the canyon and a broad shield of ice surrounding the waterfall. All throughout the day, our little group of snowmobilers had front row parking, which is pretty neat. From there, we crossed the gorge to Artist Point, which provided another fascinating vantage point of the canyon. The many layers of the Earth's crust in view, the amount of time it must have taken to create it, and the scale of it all really makes a guy feel pretty small. Our next stop was the Norris Basin. Some in our group stayed back and took it easy, while the adventurous sect braved the walkways packed with icy snow cover. Steam vents gushed from the forest in all directions. The famous Steamboat Geyser is the crown jewel of the basin. It's one of the more fickle geysers in the park, capable of sending water more than 300 feet up into the air, but sometimes it doesn't erupt for as long as 50 years. It did not erupt for us while we were there. But we still found plenty of amazing features to check out, like the many painted pots that look like nature's perfect hot tubs waiting for us in the forest. This one looked like a portal into the center of the world. Yet another bubbled like a boiling pot of pasta on the stove. We spent a lot of time in the Norris Basin, and this was definitely the highlight of it all for me. The Gallatin Mountains soared in the distance, with a steaming forest and meandering river in the foreground. This unique snow cone was formed from the exhaust vent of yet another geyser. We stopped briefly a few times along the way, and I particularly enjoyed running into this big guy. After leaving the park, we all stopped at the entrance sign for a final group photo together. Our group was filled with a wide range of riders, from first-timers to others who have always wanted to ride in Yellowstone. For all the controversy snowmobiles inside Yellowstone create, the park is a much more peaceful and amazing place to behold in the winter. And, as we learned at road reports, the trails outside of the park near West Yellowstone offer well-maintained routes and infinite opportunities for off-trail riding. What a fantastic place to be a snowmobiler.